We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Jack. Jack is under the impression that we think paradigm speakers have a characteristic sound and that some people would like them the least when compared to other speakers. Can we describe the sound of paradigm speakers compared to other speakers? Paradigm speakers have what I would call a classic Canadian sound, if that's fair to say. I think it is. There is the NRC lab in Canada, which is you'll hear brought up over and over again. This is basically as a government, I mean you can correct me if I'm wrong since you're the Canadian, government-run laboratory where anybody can, I guess, rent time or get time in there to test their speaker designs. It's have anechoic chambers and all this other stuff, which is great because they have this access to this great facility that many manufacturers would not be able to get otherwise. And what ends up happening, not always, but many speaker manufacturers are looking for a very even, flat frequency response. And many speaker designers, aren't, but some are, but don't have the facilities of the NRC. So there are a number of different speaker designers that have used the NRC in the past, and Paradigm is one of them. Axiom used to use it before they made so much money they built their own anechoic chamber. Though I think they still use it. I don't really know for sure. That they end up having a sound that is quite similar in that it has a very flat response across the entire frequency, tends to be extended pretty high on the high end, and a lot of times when I hear somebody say they want to listen to paradigms, and then they list the other ones, I a lot of times will think that they will like the paradigms the least, and that's usually based on what they've owned in the past. So in the past, if they have had something that isn't that characteristic sound, like just say that they're I don't know, Polk Audio, just off the cuff there. Polk Audio has a sound. It is not a flat frequency response sound. It is a polk sound. It's a little bass heavy most of the time, and there's other things that go on there. When you go from that to something that was tested in the NRC lab, and just because they go to the lab doesn't mean they're all going to sound the same, but has that characteristic sound that I attribute to manufacturers like Paradigm, I go, you're not going to like it as much at first blush. You're just not. And it's because it is not as different as they would like it to be.
I mean, objectively, it's really quite accurate.
Exactly. And there's nothing, and that's what we're going for. I like it. I like it just fine. I think paradigms, in my experience, have been a little bit on the bright side, and that's one thing I don't like about that sound. The same thing sort of happens to Axiom speakers as well. They're a little bit, to my ear, they're a little bit bright.
Yeah, PSB is another example.
Yes, that's the other one.
Canadian
couldn't
speaker
remember
company.
the name. I always want to say Monitor Audio, but I know they're not. They're not Canadian.
The original version of Energy,
yes,
before they were bought up by Klipsch, which was then bought up by another company. But the original version of Energy was another one. Yeah. So yeah, it's funny because I mean I don't recall myself saying characteristic, because to me, my image of the Canadian sound of that NRC rated sound, and actually that goes back to research done by Floyd Toole, so
yes,
JBL and Revel tend to have quite a similar sound characteristic as well, which if you want to call it a characteristic, it's pretty objectively flat and accurate. Also, wide even dispersion is another thing that they tend to go for. So they don't go for a narrow dispersion or a controlled directivity where it's like more narrow vertically than it is horizontal. It's like, no, they want pretty wide even polar response no matter which way you measure this thing. One of the advantages of measuring in an anechoic chamber is they can put the microphone anywhere around the speaker and take a measurement, and they do their spinorama measurement where they take like 70 measurements from all different angles around the speaker, and they're looking for a generally even wide dispersion with very flat frequency response.
But when you take a speaker like that and you put it up against a speaker that has a slightly enhanced, if not very enhanced, bass response, or a much more like a Klipsch speaker that has a very characteristically dynamic high end, these speakers end up sounding a bit ho hum, because they're not doing anything, they're not doing anything dramatic. And,
Right.
and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. But when you
Yes.
say you're coming from Klipsch and you want to listen to Paradigm speakers, I go, you're not going to like them.
See,
It's,
I think it's very good to get used to that sound.
yes.
Because then you will be able to listen to other speakers and go, oh, they're clearly emphasizing or de-emphasizing some part of the frequency spectrum, which, like we always say, if you like it, that's fine. But
Yes.
it's good to start with a reference point of accurate, even neutral. Paradigm will deliver that quite nicely. So, yeah, that's why I say, to me, it's a bit odd to call it a characteristic sound because it's almost like the absence of a character.
Yeah.
That's their character.
But
So,
you can see what I'm saying here. It's like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you're going, you've got different cars at different, if you own a truck and you go test drive a Honda Accord, you're going to go, I don't know, man. If you own a little, Mazda Miata sports or something like that, little sports car, and then you go test that same Honda Accord, you're like, I don't know. Both these people are just coming from a background of something that is very specific for what it does, and they're coming to something that just kind of does everything pretty well. No, it's not the fastest car. No, it can't haul the most stuff, but it can do a lot of the stuff that you need a car to do, and it does it all really, really well. That's why am I always coming back to cars? I guess I think that's what people
You like it.
but that's what it comes down to. So when somebody comes to me and they're saying, "Oh, I've had these speakers and these speakers and these speakers. I want to listen to Paradigms," I'm like, I think that's great. You're probably not going to like them. That's only because it's going to take you a little while of listening to them so that you can listen to those and go back to your speakers and go, whoa, why does this sound so different? This is the same content. And it takes a while for you to really kind of get to that idea of, wait a second here. These sound bloated on the bottom end. And while that sounds really good with this and this, I've noticed that it doesn't sound very good with these other things. And that's always sort of bothered me, but I never really knew it bothered me until I heard these other speakers.
You notice how many speakers are rolled off in the highs
Right.
or have really directional sound in the highs, which is, also a common thing. So,
Yeah. All right. David, I hope that helped. Or Jack, I'm sorry. No, David. Wait, Jack. Whatever. Jack! Sorry. I'm having a bad day. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
now go out and listen to something.